With the rumor mill swirling about the latest potential Macs that could come out this year, I figured this was the perfect opportunity to revisit the M1 Mac Mini, which I called the best value computer when it was released about a year ago. Well, in that time, a ton of things have happened, and with new technology looming, let's see how this has held up in that year, and if I would still recommend you buy one, knowing that something else could be coming soon. So, what about all that stuff? Let's find out. I can't slam this because if it breaks, this is what runs the YouTube channel. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. No kidding, this is my favorite computer ever made. Yes, the M1 MacBook Air is my favorite laptop, but if we expand that out to all computers, the M1 Mac Mini is far and away on the top spot for me. I've used this thing for hours a day, running all this YouTube stuff, regular correspondence, calendars, projects, editing video, editing photo. This computer does everything for me. Now, we have made a ton of videos about this in the past, so I'm not going to delve too far into specs or ordering options here. If you would like to see more of those, maybe this is your first time seeing any video about the M1 Mac Mini. At the end of this video, I will leave a link to my M1 Mac playlist, in which you can then probably spend the rest of your day listening to me gush about this little wonder. So let's get into the things that I've liked and the things that I've disliked about using the Mac Mini over the past year. And we'll keep this fresh by talking about what could change on a future model and how that would stack up to what we've actually got in our hands today. We already spent the opening talking about how much I love the computer, so let's start off with the negatives. In reality, I have only one, maybe two negatives for the M1 Mac Mini. First, easily it's the memory options. The storage, I would say the storage is fine for the most part, so long as you don't need over 2 terabytes internal storage. And even if you do, I personally do, you can easily set up an external RAID or NAS. Here's my 24 terabyte RAID array that holds all of my backup files and completed projects for this YouTube channel, and it goes through the Thunderbolt port. And what's funny is all of that costs way more than the Mac Mini did. But what I'm talking about in the negatives is that you can only go up to 16 gigabytes of unified memory in these M1 Mac Minis, and I guess in all of the M1 Macs as of today. Yes, the unified memory is incredibly fast and efficient, and I've personally not had an issue here with the 16 gigabytes that I purchased for mine, but I do know that there are folks out there that have requirements in either coding, gaming, or other very memory-intensive tasks that do need more. And as this is a desktop computer, and it's got plenty of room in the shell, I am disappointed that over the past year, we haven't seen an option to go up to at least 32 gigabytes. They have upgraded to 10 gigabit Ethernet in the back, so I wish there was some more upgradability in memory. The second problem I have is I wish there was some post-ordering customization or upgrading available. I understand why they do it, but I am saddened by how Apple approaches upgrading tech yourself or repairing your own computers. I think with the additional space that's in the chassis of this machine, we could easily upgrade the storage ourselves. If unified memory needs to be soldered to the motherboard, so be it, but M.2 drives are a snap to upgrade and install yourself. One of the things that having a PC you built yourself leads me to is that I love that I can always fix or repair something that's gone wrong because everything's plug and play. Part goes bad, I just take out the part, I put in another part. It's so easy, it's so nice, I don't have to worry about anybody, I don't have to send it off to an OEM to get fixed. So it makes me sad that everything is so closed off and proprietary here. And those would be the only real issues I have with the M1 Mac Mini. And the one that I would and have said that it makes sense to not buy this specific Mac is that memory option. If you need more memory, I would wait for whatever else is coming out. Those are really the only reasons, because this is my subtle way to transition to the things I've liked. It's super subtle, I know. This computer is amazing in basically every other regards. First off, the price. You cannot touch this computer for the price. You can buy these things from Apple refurbished for $589. Show me a better all-in-one package that you can get for $589. Seriously, I want you to leave me a comment below and point me to a computer that works better than this one for under $600. That's operating system, I/O, power, everything for that cost. And I'm being kind of confrontational about it, but I'm not really being facetious. I would love to find something else to compare this to, so don't be afraid to post. Even at the maxed out 2 terabytes, 16 gigabytes of unified memory, and 10 gigabit Ethernet, you're looking at $17.99, which is pretty reasonable for what you get. Though here, I would say that there is some remnants of the Apple tax by charging $600 for 2 terabytes of storage. But the special part is you don't have to buy that higher end. So you can get one of those external solutions I mentioned previously if you really need that much space and you don't want to spend Apple's prices for storage. But I think this is the best base model computer that you can buy. And I'm team keep telling me, because I would be really excited to see something better in that $600 budget. You can, when you buy this refurbished, the best part is Apple treats it like it's a brand new computer. Like, you will get one of these, it will essentially show up brand new. You get all the good stuff, but for less. The next thing that I've really liked is the noise levels of this Mac. And what that really means is I like how quiet this thing is, because in practical use, it's silent. I've never heard this thing turn on once. If you've not had a chance to work in a totally silent office, I easily recommend it. It's so much easier to get in a zen state of working if you're not being distracted by a bunch of little like stuff going on around it. It is kind of offset with that storage unit of mine making noise like a regular PC, but the Mac Mini by itself does not add to that. Before these M1 Macs and MacBooks came out, I never really put big stock in quiet running computers, but I don't know how I could live without them now. Even my custom built gaming PC that is used for playing like the 2 games I play, it drives me up the wall with the noise it makes. And that is the one that I just built. It's not even all that loud, but once you get used to silence, everything else is deafening. Whoa, that was almost deep. I should probably write that one down. The next thing that I've liked about the Mac Mini continues to be that this is still the best set of ports available on a Mac. Even with the M1 iMac coming out earlier this year, nothing touches the Mini for I/O. You get HDMI, you get 2 Thunderbolt, you get 2 USB-A, you get a headphone jack, you get an Ethernet port. It's exactly what I personally need to set up my home office. I've got my storage running through the Thunderbolt. I've got my Ethernet plugged into my router. I've got my comically large widescreen monitor plugged in via HDMI, and my KVM switch is running through the USB-A. This is what all computers need. I don't care if it's a productivity laptop. I don't care if it's a huge lumbering gaming desktop computer. This is the bare minimum. The days of only having a couple USB-C ports, that needs to go away, because it's absolutely a hindrance to need a hub or a dock for all of this stuff. And that's more money that you have to spend. It drives me crazy that you just buy a computer. Oh, hey, now you got to spend an extra 40, 50, 60 bucks to get an adapter just to use your keyboard or stuff with it. I love this. And as a bonus point, the M1 Mac Mini continues to be the only M1 Mac that supports dual screen inputs without any kind of a workaround. You can do a 6K display from Thunderbolt and a 4K display from the HDMI. Yes, I've seen adapters that can split the displays out for MacBooks or something like that, but I just like having the things that I want directly built in my computer. I don't know about you, I would like to have it all just easier to use. The next thing I've liked is the power, which you'd think from all the claims from Apple talking about power, I would have put this further up the list, right? Well, personally, it is my video, power is important, but it's only important up to a certain point. I prefer having a computer that's very usable and intuitive and has all of those quality of life benefits that we've already discussed today. I would trade away certain amounts of power to get those features 7 days a week. I wouldn't even hesitate to make that deal. But one of the coolest parts about the M1 Mac Mini is you get all of that usability stuff that we've already talked about, plus you get real usable power. You hear me say this in a lot of videos that I'm not overly concerned about benchmarks, but they can be useful to prove my point at times. So here are some CPU scores for my Mac Mini, and you'll see that while it's not the most powerful computer ever made, it scores reasonably well against other modern processors in both single core and multi-core tasks. But the real win for Apple here is that these new M1 computers aren't built off of the same sort of architecture that my Windows machines are. And because of that, when a program is written to run natively on these machines, you get performance levels that are not seen in other machines with this kind of hardware benchmarks. Yes, I know not everyone on the planet is a video editor, but since it's my major power task, I will use it as my example a lot. Even if the new versions of the Macs come out with bigger GPUs, bigger processors, bigger everything, keep this in mind. This Mac Mini runs better than my iMac Pro used to, and that computer costs almost $5,000. The power on these small, efficient computers is legitimately game-changing. If you are a regular person that just needs a home computer for regular home computing stuff, this will have all the power you could ever hope for, and it will last you for years in the future. And the last thing that I've really liked about the M1 Mac Mini over the past year is just how reliable it's been. Team, if you don't know me, this might sound crazy because I've gotten a pretty serious Apple guy label, but before these M1 computers came out, I'd transitioned away from using Apple as my primary home computer and my primary computer for running all this YouTube stuff. There was a 2-month period where I was all in on Windows for running the channel, and that shouldn't sound all that weird, right? I mean, I use both ecosystems on a daily basis, but whatever, commenters will always just comment stuff, right? macOS Catalina was a huge nightmare for me between media compatibility problems. Final Cut Pro, it was called Final Cut Pro X at the time, that would crash very regularly, and there were just other assorted programs that would not work the way that I needed them to work. I've never been more frustrated with an operating system in my life than I was with Catalina. So in reality, these M1 machines with Mac OS Big Sur are really what turned it around for me and allowed me to even start using a Mac as a primary computer again. And since transitioning my personal computer over to these M1 variants, I've not had a single problem. There were some Bluetooth hiccups with my mouse and keyboard for a little bit, but since I've started using my KVM switcher, everything has been rock solid. Great power, great usability, great price, and great reliability. What else do you need? Like seriously, what else could you possibly want from a computer? But at the end of the day, so what, right? Would I recommend you still buy one of these M1 Mac Minis? Yes, but I would say wait until we actually see what Apple is releasing at the next big event in a couple of days. I don't imagine that they will release something in this specific line to supplant the M1 Mac Mini. They'll probably release higher end machines, which I think those higher end machines will probably be awesome, but they will be more expensive and they won't necessarily replace what we've already got. I could be wrong though, so wait until after the event. And if they haven't replaced this Mac Mini, I would highly recommend you get this one unless you need more physical memory or a dedicated graphics card or something else that is a hardware limiting factor here. And if you like this video and you would like to see that playlist of all of the cool stuff that I talk about the M1 Macs, whether it be the MacBook Air, the M1 Mac Mini, the M1 MacBook Pro, you can find that playlist by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.